Hey guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today we are going to talk about topwater, specifically late season topwater, end of summer, beginning of fall, what you can do to catch bigger fish and more fish. Because as much as we talk about topwater, as much as we love topwater fishing, it can be very frustrating for some people. Frogging can be difficult. Walking the dog can be difficult. Getting those fish to come up and commit can be downright frustrating. So there are some key things that you can do here towards the end of that topwater season that are really going to up your game. I'm going to show you some very specific modifications in just a moment. But before that, I want to give you some more key examples. First thing that I want you to do is understand that these fish have been seeing topwater for months now. Now, if you're fishing private ponds or fisheries that don't get a lot of pressure, this will apply less to you than to guys that are out on lakes that get a lot of bass fishing pressure. But if your fishery is getting a ton of pressure, this is critical. At the beginning of the season, you can do a lot of things wrong and you'll still get bit. Depending on when your topwater season starts, March, April, May, those fish are just devouring that bait right at the beginning of the season. Out here we have the California Delta. That's one fishery where I've seen it over and over. If you get on that early season bite, throwing a frog, they take a frog so deep, you're trying to reach down in there to get the frog out. Same exact fishery, fast forward to August, September. If you can get them to eat it at all, you're getting skin hooks. Barely getting them in the lip. A lot of missed bites. A lot of fish that just come up and swirl under the bait. That's because of pressure. The fish have seen the bait so many times, over and over and over, they're less likely to commit. When you're that first topwater bait over the top of them in the springtime, they are on it. You know, they just believe it's the real thing and they go up there and smash it. But when you're the 100th or 1,000th or 10,000th topwater to come by, well, now the little things start to matter a lot more because those fish are pickier, they're more wary, they're less likely to commit to that bait. So, talking specifically about the frog first, and then we're going to get into some other baits. But about that frog, here's a quick tip for you. Change where you've been throwing it. As the grass is dying back, because as soon as we get into August, September, start getting those cooler nights, you start seeing that grass starting to die back, those weed edges moving closer to the shoreline. If you're on a fishery that has those outside grass edges, leave the bank, go to that outer grass. Now, there's not necessarily as much of it there as there was a month or 2 or 3 months ago. But the grass that remains is going to hold fish. You get on that outside stuff, you walk that frog, or depending on how loose it is, you can throw a buzzbait over the top of it. But that frog is a great option. You can either a spook, a whopper plopper. There's a lot of baits you can throw around it as that grass dies back and dies back. But the key is that outside stuff. The grass that does survive, that makes it through those cooler nights, those fish are going to congregate in it. You're going to find better quality fish out there offshore. So keep that in mind. Don't be afraid to go out there. When you see it in the video, oftentimes it looks like we're just fishing open water, but it might be just a single little string that comes up and lays over. That can be enough to hold a big one in this late summer, and that might be a big one that nobody else has walked a bait over the top of. Keep that in mind. Now, jumping into some very specific things that you can do. We're going to get right into my own box. 3 things that are critical. One is I want you to be very specific with your hooks. Do not use hooks this time of year on topwater. Do not use hooks that have a curled in point. The reason why is there are so many hooks on the market. Most fishermen don't even know the differences between them all and what they're for, and that's okay. I'm going to make it simple for you. If it has a tipped in point, the advantage of that point is that if you get a good fish on it, you're probably going to keep them on it. The downside, the trade-off, is that it's harder to get a hook in them when they're not committed. If they come up and fully devour that bait and they've got a mouthful of it and you've got a curved point, it's still gonna get them. But if they come up and just slap it, or come up and just taste it, just nip at it, and you've got a curved point, you're probably not gonna hook that fish. So this is the time of year that you start going to baits that have round bend hooks on them. All round bends. That's the key there. Those round bend hooks see how they point up parallel to the hook shank? So what I mean is a tipped point is going to be curled on the end. A round bend, you're going to come down the shank of the hook and it's going to turn right back up. And they're going to be parallel to one another. That's your best odds. When they come up just to slap it, that point is straight. It's most likely that it's going to catch and it's going to stick. If it's rolled over and they don't fully engulf it, it probably won't get it. They'll probably just slide off it. So a round bend hook this time of year, critical. Down in the video description, I'm going to link you the specific hooks that we use because we are very, very, very specific about our choices. There's another example of a pair of round bend hooks, and this is a great crossover. Item number 2, red hook. Now, I'm not here to tell you red hooks are magical. We've covered this in video after video after video over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. What I'm going to tell you though, and I've told you this before, is that red hooks are great for controlling how a fish eats the bait. Not going to get you more bites, in my opinion. That's not what it's for. It's not magically invisible. You know, there are all sorts of misconceptions about a red hook. But what a red hook will do for you is control how that fish eats. So let me set this down. If a fish is coming up underneath a bait, hunting it, they're looking for a weak point. They're looking for a reason to strike. And this bait is up on the surface. There's a lot of light shining on it. When they come in to hit that bait, when they finally commit, and they're right there and they want to do it, you've seen it where you're walking a popper or walking a spook or walking a frog, and all of a sudden, here's your bait walking, and all of a sudden there's a shadow, and it's following that movement. It's doing everything that your bait does. They're together. That is a fish that's looking for its moment. In the springtime, you usually don't see that. You'll be walking along and then cannonball. Early summer, cannonball. Late summer going into fall, you're going to see fish tracking because they're more wary of striking the bait because they've eaten a topwater or they've seen enough topwater that they're a little more nervous. That red hook can make all the difference. They're coming in looking for that moment, and when they see that thing, it's different, they shoot for it. Most times, if you've got a red hook out there on the front of that bait, they're going to shoot for that single red hook, and they're going to get hooked up really well. The advantage of getting them to eat the front, if they come up and they get the back end of the bait, typically that's the only hook they're going to get because your line is tight and it's pulling away from their face. So if this is where they're hooked, that's what you're going to have the whole fight. If you can get them to eat the front, you start fighting them, you're going to end up with one of these other hooks catching out on the side of the gill plate. You're going to end up with 2 sets of hooks in that fish. Your chance of landing them is going to skyrocket. So a red hook this time of year is critical. And then last but not least, feathered treble hook in the back. It makes a big difference. Again, we're talking about fish that have seen it over and over and over again. Now, again, if you're a pond guy, more power to you. You are winning. If you're a guy on a pressured fishery, this stuff is key. And it's good baits come without feathered treble hooks. I mean, you can spend a lot of money, like a mega bass. That's the Dog X. Fantastic bait. Fantastic bait. But does not come with a red hook or a feathered treble hook. You have to add them. Some poppers don't come with them. Some do. The advantage of that feathered trailer hook is the same thing. Once that fish is wary, if you start slowing your bait down, because that's another way that you can lure these fish in that late season, is spend a little more time over the top of them. Sometimes I like to walk a bait really fast. See that in a lot of the videos. We're just tick, 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 and then they eat it. Sometimes slow it down. Walk, walk, walk. Makes a big difference. They don't have to travel as far because, again, they're not as excited about it as they were 2 months ago. Now they're just watching it go by. If it goes by too quickly, sometimes it triggers them. Other times they just let it pass on by. But if you can slow it down, they're going to come up and they're actually going to study it. And this plays both sides. Now, with the hard baits, you can put that feathered treble on. So when they do come up and they're doing their slow track, it's just a little more realism. It looks like a tail, like fins. Just give them that extra little bit of flash, starts mimicking scales. It does those secondary movements, those secondary actions that a real fish has that a fake lure doesn't have. Gill flash, fin movement, the flash coming off the scales. Those are all things that the real thing has. That feather can make a big difference when those fish get wary. Now again, talking about slowing down, buzz baits. This is the time of year that I recommend going lighter. If you like throwing a big half-ounce buzz, maybe it's time to step down. Throw a 3/8, throw a quarter. This is also the time of year where you noticed earlier this summer, we started throwing those buzz baits with a Kitech on the back of them or another swim bait on the back of them instead of a skirt. Going into fall, again, realism is key. They've seen it. If your buzzbait bite has started fading on you, maybe consider going away from that skirted buzz. Go to a skirtless buzz, put a swim bait on there, get a little bit more natural profile. These are all things that are going to help you guys. This time of year, you can get giant topwater fish. Don't give up. If you've been frustrated all summer, you've seen us catching topwater fish, you've seen other people catching topwater fish, and it's not happening for you, don't give up. Modify your presentation. Now, there is a time coming soon where you're going to start leaning away from topwater, but you've still got time right now. So do those key things. Again, down in the video description, we'll link you the different hooks that we use, the red hooks, the feathered trebles, different hooks with better bends, different strengths depending on the size of fish that you're trying to catch. Those are all critical things if you're trying to up your catch and get that extra key bite or stick that extra big fish. Hope that helps you guys. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We do these videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday for you guys. And if you're not subscribed and you don't have your notifications turned on, you won't even know about it. We appreciate you. Have a great day.